Yeah, is my screen visible to all? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamniyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Aham Shri Guruhu Sri Yuta Pada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tamsa Jeevam Sadhavaitam Sadhavootam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today we are going to be looking at chapter 12. Can you see my slide? Is my slide visible? Hare Krishna?
No, Mataji.
No? Okay, one second. Now?
Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah. So today it's chapter 12. It's called the Bhakti-Yoga or Yoga of Devotional Service. Now, this is the last chapter in this section of Bhakti, because right from chapter 7, we have been looking at the glories of the Lord and also what would it mean for material people in the material world or the Jivatmas in the material world, for them to engage in the devotional practice, because the ultimate aim of every Jivatma is to attain the Supreme Brahman or the Paramatma or the Parabrahman and enter his abode, which is the Goloka Vrindavan. Okay, so complete surrendering to the Lord is what is being highlighted in all of the chapters that we have seen so far. And this chapter, in a way, is going to be more like a summary, but also something that Arjuna is going to ask for our sake in terms of the types of worship that one should engage in. So as a part of that, we'll also be discussing the pros and cons of the different forms of worships, and also what is it that we should do as part of our lives in this Kali Yuga, that which will help us to fix our mind and intellect on something which is far more easier, something that makes devotion a pleasure, and also gives us that much needed bliss and joy. So the overview of this chapter is that bhakti is the best, come what may. Bhakti is best because it gives us a lot of, it kind of makes everything pleasant for us, and as well as, it helps us to kind of spread that pleasantness across all kinds of engagements, our relationships, and in every form of dealings that we have to do as part of our day-to-day duties, and as well as in terms of achieving our aspiration and getting to our goal that we set for ourselves. And bhakti, you may ask, how does it help us? It helps us because bhakti has all the ingredients which kind of make you very endearing, and that kind of strengthens every form of relationships that we need to make our own lives successful, and also to kind of help the society, and also to gain things that will help the society to grow at large, along with our own individual growth and development. At the end of the day, each one of us is seeking for something meaningful in our lives, and bhakti helps you to kind of imbibe those qualities, which helps you to live a meaningful life. And then the Lord is going to explain the various progressive stages of devotion. What is it that we can do? He's not going to really literally say, do only this. But he is going to suggest us things based on what he thinks is the best for Kali Yuga. However, it is also clear, it will also be clear from this chapter that you can choose any path depending on your mental status or your mental state or mental ability. Because each of us are endowed with different abilities. Each of us have different kind of talents. So it's not like one straight jacket fits all. It is something that each of us can customize, but he's going to give his personal opinion as to what he thinks would be the best for us, given the kind of situation that we are all in. Hare Krishna, Kamalakshmi Mataji, go on mute Mataji, Hare Krishna. And then, yeah, from verses 13 to 20, we're also going to look at the various qualities that will actually endear one to Krishna. I think I have to, 1 second. Just give me a minute. Kamal Lakshmi Mataji, you have to go on mute. Okay, done. I've muted her. Okay, I've muted. Okay. Sorry for the disturbance. Okay. So this is what we're going to cover in this chapter today. So we'll get on to the first verse. The first verse says, Arjuna Uvacha, Evam Satata Yuktaye Bhaktastvam Paryupasate Ye Chapi Aksharam Avyaktam Tesham Ke Yoga Vittamaha. Arjuna inquired, which is considered to be more perfect? Those who are properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So this question is pertinent to all forms of worship. So the Lord, this question from Arjuna is for everyone who thinks that should there be only one form of worship. So Arjuna's question answers that particular thought that might come in anybody's mind. Because on one hand, we are saying that the Supreme Brahman is all-pervading, is all-pervasive. So that is the case, if the Supreme Brahman is omnipresent, if that is the case, then what is the need for us to look at Krishna in his physical form who came upon this earth in the Dwapara Yuga? Is that the only way we need to worship the Lord? So you will get the answers in the subsequent verses. Okay. Now 12.2, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So the Bhagavan is answering, Maya Aveshya Mano Yemam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Te Me Yuktatma Matah. So he says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. And this is something he also said, if you look at the way the narration has been happening so far. In chapter 2, the Lord said, we are all spirit souls and we are an eternal element of that Supreme Personality. And then in chapter 6, the Lord spoke about he spoke at length about what does it mean to be in dhyana, to be following the path of dhyana yoga. And he also kind of pointed out to the pitfalls of that form of yoga system of attaining the Supreme Brahman. And then in chapter 7, the Lord also speaks about his various potencies and about the various elements that touch our life in which the potencies or the energies of the Lord are situated. And in chapter 8, he said, unless one is completely in the practice of bhakti, it is highly unlikely for one to be thinking of the Lord during the worst moments of our life. So we are talking about two forms of worship, personal worship and an impersonal worship. Now, all of you have come thus far. So can you tell me what in your own opinion is a personal form of worship of the Lord and the impersonal form of the worship of the Lord? Hare Krishna. What does it mean to be in personal worship and what does it mean to be in an impersonal worship of that Supreme Brahman, of that Supreme Personality? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes.
I don't know exactly, but I'll try answering.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
I believe personal form of worship means like deity worship, like thinking that deity is original representation of the God and worshipping them.
Right.
Impersonal form of worship, it can be like from the principles of Mayavadi, that I believe that God doesn't have any personal form or something like that. What
Right.
do you believe?
Where did you get this Mayavadi thing?
Oh, I guess I read it somewhere.
Acha, theek hai. Very nice, very nice. Perfectly said. So the personal worship of the Lord is the personification of the energies of the Lord itself. And in the personal worship, it is active engagement, because you're looking upon the deity as a person. And therefore, all the forms of rasas that we spoke of, whether it's Vatsalya rasa or Dasya rasa, Sakhya rasa, Madhurya rasa, everything is in that. You may want to look upon the Lord as your friend, as your parent, as your teacher, as your coach, anything that you as a lover. It's up to you. It gives you that sense of relationship. It's an invisible thread. If you ask me, how do I know? It's an invisible thread. It can only be experienced by the person who is actually undergoing that experience. It can't be felt unless you kind of engage in that kind of a relationship. Whereas impersonal worship is very dry, because you're looking at the space. You're looking at space, and you are in a kind of, you have to get into that, the ashtaling, the ashta, limbed, ashtanga yoga process, of really, ensuring that you're able to meditate, for a significant, percentage of time. And that kind of a thing sometimes may actually also go awry, because we are not in a very conducive environment as that kind of a yoga system demands. And therefore, that actually, in a way speaking, it may also mislead us, or it might misguide us, and it might falsely give us the impression that we are enhancing, or we are elevating ourselves on the spiritual realm of things. Okay, and it's very dry. Not everyone can do it. Maybe some people, have done it in the past, but I don't think in this kind of lifestyle that we are in, it is possible. But however, in the personal form of worship, you don't have to necessarily, set aside the kind of time and, build in those kind of rigor in yourself to be able to engage in that relationship building with the Lord. See, what is bhakti? Bhakti is relationship building with the Lord. But here, the difference is that this relationship is permanent. This relationship does not ask you to, forego anything. This relationship is not something that it's like a, it's more like the material form of material relationships that we have, which is more very much, it is very substance oriented. I give you, then if I give you something, I need something from you. Yeah, there is a sign. There is a condition attached to everything that we do in a material relationship. Whereas in this relationship, there are no such conditions. Maybe we might want to draw some conditions to the Lord, saying that, Lord, you need to give me that strength so that I always have you in my mind in everything that I do. So this is what he also said in chapter 10, the last chapters that we saw in 10.8, where he says machitta madgata prana. So we have to completely, focus with our mind. It's only when the mind is focused on that supreme, on the supreme consciousness, would you be able to really move forward. And how do you do it? You do it joyously. And how do you do it? By through engagement. Machitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha nityam tushyanti cha ramanti. So you're constantly remembering the Lord through the various engagement processes like smaranam, shravanam, making prasadam for the Lord, remembering the Lord, and then engaging in groups of association of devotees, and doing activities that actually keep you engaged. And doing such an activity gives you a lot of pleasure. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. It gives you a lot of pleasure. It gives you a lot of joy. It's automatic, because whenever you're engaged in an activity, it gives you a sense of fulfillment. And that's what bhakti gives you. So the Lord is actually prescribing that the personal form of worship is better than the dry form of worship, which is not conducive for probably 100% of the jivatmas or the human beings in the Kali Yuga. Okay. 12.3 and 4. Can someone read? Hare Krishna.
But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such person engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm going to take you to Prabhupada's, word by word translation of that shloka that he gives there. Can you see the screen I've come to?
No, Mataji, you have.
Okay, one second. I have to get back again. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So let me go back. Very nice it was. Prabhupada's word to word. He makes it so easy for us. We don't have to really struggle. Okay, look at this. Okay, so these are the two shlokas, right? Etva aksharam anirdeshyam avyaktam paryupasate sarvatragam achintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam. So let's look at that. It says aksharam, that which is beyond the perception of the senses. That's the Lord. Anirdeshyam, Lord is indefinite. Avyaktam, he is unmanifested. And then sarvatragam, he is all pervading. Achintyam, inconceivable. Because if those of you who attended the class yesterday, you will notice in the Virata Rupa, it was impossible for anybody to look at, at which point things are starting and where it's ending, right? It's inconceivable. Kutastam means unchangeable. Achalam, immovable. Dhruvam, fixed. Sanyamya, controlling all the senses. Sarvatra, everywhere. Sama buddhaya, equally disposed. Okay. Okay, so let's read the translation again. For those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engage in the welfare of all at last. These are the people who are not looking at the Krishna deity. They are looking at the impersonal effulgence that is there all around us. Okay, he says they also will achieve. But he says they have to fully, completely ensure they are in control of the various senses and the sense objects. And they also need to practice good behavior and be in need to have all those etiquettes which help them to kind of not only be able to follow their path, but also engage in the welfare of all. So therefore, he is that particular sentence is very important. Engage in the welfare of all. And that can only happen only when you are constantly in touch with the variety of things that are there around us. So it is even in that form that engagement factor is very, very important. So let me go back to the slide again. Okay, 12.5 he says klesho adhikataras tesham avyakta shakta chetasam avyakta hi ghatir dukkam dehavabdhir avapyate. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the supreme advancement, is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Embodied means those with material bodies like us. So here we need to understand the Jnana Yoga, the three types of the Jnana Yoga is what we will read from the next section onwards. But Jnana Yoga is something that we touched upon in chapter 2. The Jnana Yoga is inconceivable, it's impersonal, and it's unmanifested. Okay, you're focusing more on the knowledge part of it. And as we also read in the previous sections, that Jnana alone will not do. You need to kind of live that Jnana. You need to kind of engage in activities that will help you to use that Jnana. Only then will it lead to benefits. Bhakti Yoga is total engagement. Bhakti yogi is a karma yogi as well. He does his karma, he does his duty, all within the prescribed, code of conduct. And he does it extraordinarily well because he puts bhakti in everything that he does. So Bhakti Yoga not only has karma yoga in it, it also has a jnana, because in bhakti you also have the jnana that the Supreme Personality is all in all, and that he is the most powerful, and he is the one who can actually help you to deliver you from this ghatir dukkha, from this kind of an environment which has only dukkha, right? So therefore, the Lord says that impersonal form of worship is not easy at all for embodied creatures or embodied living atmas. Okay. So 12.6 and 7, he says, Etu sarvani karmani mahi sannyasa matparaha ananyenaiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate. Teshamaham samudhartha mrityu samsara sagarat bhavanina chirat partha maya aveshita chetasa. For one who worships me, giving up all his activities unto me, being devoted to me without deviation, with ananya, without any deviation, engaged in devotional service, always meditating upon me, who has fixed his mind upon me, O son of Pratha, for him I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So here, again, the importance of some of these sentences that I want you all to mark are: giving up all his activities does not mean that you're not doing the activities, but you're doing the activities for the sake of Krishna, because Krishna has given us this birth with a certain purpose. And therefore, for the sake of Krishna, we must do all our activities. But the results of those activities have to be given up to Krishna. When I say the results of those activities, don't have the doership mentality. Don't own the things that you are actually achieving, because the moment you own the things that you want to achieve or you're achieving, the psychological impact starts to set in. And what does the psychological impacts have on your body and your mind and intellect? It kind of binds you. And the moment it binds you, we have seen all the kind of things that happen: envy, greed, jealousy, ego, everything everything comes to play. The moment everything comes to play, you are completely deluded. And once the delusion happens, your memory gets clogged, or your intellect gets clogged, and all the inabilities and all the inefficiencies starts to set in. So therefore, have that focus on that Supreme, on the God conscious, without deviation. And devotional service will help you to do that, because once you kind of every day and every time you kind of constantly have these things, contemplating on them, and always thinking about these things, it will automatically, the devotional service and that bhakti will automatically set it. And when devotional service or the bhakti sets in you, your every activity is going to be measured. It is like, I think last class I told people that bhakti is like a sieve. We use a sieve to filter out things. You use a sieve to filter out, say you to take the whey out of the paneer, or to sieve atta and any kind of dough that you want to make samosas or cakes and stuff like that. So bhakti is like a sieve. It removes all the impurities. It removes all the unwanted elements that often comes in as a curtain before us. So it is that sieve that we want, and bhakti is that sieve. You can buy every other kind of sieve, but you can't buy bhakti. Bhakti has to be cultivated. So the Lord says, always meditating upon. And what is the best way to meditate upon the Lord? Are the simple Maha Mantras that we have been trying to, tell you in all these classes. The Maha Mantra is the easiest, because that helps you to kind of, build focus, A. And B, it is also very simple. It doesn't take much time. And also association with such devotee groups and, keeping in touch with the scriptures will help you to advance in your bhakti. That is a guarantee. That is definitely something that will happen over time. Don't expect magic to happen, but magic can happen if you set your mind on it. At the same time, you have to have that faith and determination to be able to do it. So the Lord says, one who is able to kind of fix his mind on him, the Lord himself will help to deliver the person from this misery, this ocean of misery, which is the material world. So this is, and what is the way, and he's going to talk about, I think from 12.8 onwards, he's going to talk about the various stages of bhakti. And in this shloka, it is Ananya Bhakti. Let's see what that is. Maya eva mana adatsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya, nivashishyasi maya eva, ata urdhavam na shamshayah. Can someone read this translation? Hare Krishna.
Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without doubt. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So he says, just by fixing your mind upon him. When you're fixing your mind upon him, means always keep him at the center of all your activities. That's the best way to think about this. Wherever the sentence comes, wherever this translation comes, that fix your mind upon me, it actually means that you are keeping Krishna at the center of all your activities. I don't know how many of you all, I'm sure many families celebrate Janmashtami. And I remember in our families, whenever, irrespective of whether it's Janmashtami or any festival, before, getting to make all the palaharas, palahara means all the prasadam, they actually, take a little portion of the raw material and they kind of put it together at the center and they call it the Bhagavan. They say, this is the Bhagavan and we are making it for this Bhagavan. Okay. So that's how it is. It is a way of, it is just a way in which you kind of look at things. So look at things in such a way that you're doing it for Krishna. When you say I'm doing it for Krishna, you will not do anything that is wrong. As simple as that. Because you are kind of believing in something which is inconceivable, and that inconceivable will never let you do anything wrong. So the moment you put God consciousness before everything else, that God consciousness will support you. Many times you have heard this saying, the universe will help you. How does the universe help you? The universe comes together because the God consciousness is everywhere. So therefore, the moment you believe in the power of that God consciousness, everything will come in your way. Yeah. So he says, engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. This is called Ananya Bhakti. Ananya Bhakti means you're putting God at the center of everything that you do and at the center of every other activity that happens around you and in all your engagements. Okay. This is called Ananya Bhakti. So the next stage, let's see. So he says, Atha chittam samadatum na shaknoshi mayi stiram abhyasa yogena tato mam ichchaptum dhananjaya. Oh my dear Arjuna, oh winner of wealth, if you cannot, he's giving us alternatives. If you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulated principles of Bhakti-Yoga. In this way, you will develop a desire to attain. See, he's giving us so many ways in which, at the end of the day, he wants us to get back to him. And therefore, he's suggesting various means. So what is the regulated principles of Bhakti-Yoga? It is like you need to take shelter under a guru and follow all the principles of the Vedas, getting up early in the morning, the Brahma Muhurtam, and then, attending the Mangala Arati. There are so many temples offering the Mangala Arati, either physically or virtually, like the way we do these days. Okay, doing the Gayatri Mantra, and then doing things in such a way, in an orderly way, so that it is by practice. See, it's only practice you will be able to get mastery over anything. So the second method that the Lord is giving is practice, put in some systems in place that will help you to engage in bhakti. At the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to get onto the path of devotion. So the Lord is giving us various ways in which one can do it. Okay. First he said, fix your mind. Now mind we know is absolutely, chanchala. That also Arjuna said in the previous verses. Mind is chanchala. So what do I do? How can I engage in something which is always constantly getting distracted? So that was the first one. So he says, engage your mind. And once you engage your mind, so engage your mind is not easy for most of us. That's why I said, put Krishna at the center of everything. Then automatically the mind is engaged.
right? The second part that the Lord is giving is, if you can't do that, then he says, follow the regulated principles of Bhakti-Yoga, which is also not a bad idea. It's also very good. And it actually brings in a lot of sanskar in us, brings in a lot of discipline. See, it's only good habits that will drive us or that will help us in Bhakti Marga. If there are no good habits, it will not. Now, it's like a chicken and egg story. Good habits will help you to engage in Bhakti. And once you do that, Bhakti will automatically again bring in good habits. Both are interrelated. It's a chicken and egg story. What comes first, I don't know. But you try both of them. I'm sure both of them will ultimately give you the answer that you need most. Okay. So, did I skip anything? Yeah, we did that. Okay. The next one. Abhyase api asamartho. Now he's saying, if abhyasa, if practice is difficult, see, mat karma paramo bhava, mat artham api karmani kurvan siddham avapyasi. Okay. Now, if you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, there could be many people, oh, I can't get up so early in the morning. I cannot, sit up for a Mangala Arati. Nahi kar sakta. I have to sit late. I have to work late. I have to study late. Oh, it's not possible for me. Then just try to work for me. He says, if you can't do even that abhyasa, then he says, work for me. When he says work for me, do something that will help in the spread of Krishna consciousness. Do something that will help in building the awareness of goodness in everything that we do. Okay. He said, by doing that, will also help you to come to that perfect stage of bhakti. Okay. So now he says, yet karosi yet ashnasi, yet juhosi dadasi, yet tapsyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. So this is what I said in the beginning. Whatever we do, let's have God consciousness, the God principle, Lord Krishna in everything that we do. The moment we bring that automatically also leads to bhakti. That will automatically help you to kind of, grow, cultivate the beauty that is there in bhakti. Okay. Okay. 12.11. Atayat api asakto sikartum mad yogam ashritah sarva karma phalatyagam tatah kuru yatat mavan. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness, then try to act, giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. So he says, doesn't matter. If all of that is difficult, then do your activity and become a nishkama karma yogi. You can't do abhyasa. You can't, you can't keep your mind from wavering. Mind is wavering. I'm not able to focus. Great. The second one, I can't do abhyasa also. The third one, I don't even have time to get into any kind of activities that will help directly spread, the message of the Lord or directly spread the good knowledge contained in the Vedas. Fine. All the three are difficult. So then the Lord says, do your activity just as you would do. Okay, you want to be a great scientist? Be a great scientist. Study to become a good scientist and work and do things that will help humanity and the world at large. But he says, whatever you do it without that puffing up of your ego. Leave that ego element outside yourself. The moment ego comes in, remember that it means it's worse than even death. Ego actually kills us, it's like a slow poisoning of our existence. So the moment you kind of leave that ego aside and give up all the results, that is the beauty of Nishkama Karma. Nishkama Karma Yoga gives you that complete freedom, that gives you that, that it lightens you up. When I say light, it removes that weight. We may be heavy on the heavy side, but still it gives us the feeling of lightness in ourselves. We feel so light that everything seems beautiful. The moment you are kind of, holding on to things, that's when, all the forms of engage, that entanglement, bondage, everything comes. The moment you kind of do everything joyfully without actually, getting affected by the things, that come off it or that don't come off it, it kind of makes you feel okay, because it doesn't mean you're not going to stop striving for excellence. You will still strive for excellence. Please don't mistake this element of giving up things, doing things in such a way that you don't want to have any attachment. Just because I don't want to have an attachment doesn't mean that you will stop doing things in the best possible way. If you have chosen politics as your profession, then you have to do the best in that sphere. Everything that you do should be shreshta, it should be uttishta, it should be completely, it should be of the highest order, uchatam. Shreshta and uchatam should be the thing. And similarly, if you are a sports person, you have to strive hard to really ensure that you are kind of keeping your fitness in order, and you're putting in your best every day, and you're looking at various areas in which you need to kind of improve. That needs to come. But as you're doing it, seek that support from the Lord and say that, help me to do well. Please help me to do well. And while you're doing it, and when you do it, give up the result to the Lord. Then you'll feel light. And if there is any improvement that has to come out of it, or even if the coach will often come and say, you need to improve with it, you will not take it in the wrong way. Oh, why is this person always commenting on what I am doing? That sense will not come, because your results anyway, you're not the owner of the results. So anyway, it's not affecting you. So what's wrong in kind of, taking all the feedback that's coming in? Oh, you're going to take it in a joyful way, and you're going to implement it in such a way that it's going to give you better and better results. That is the real, essence of what the Bhagavad Gita teaches us. Okay. The moment there is no attachment, the moment there is no ownership, you are free from the outcomes. It gives you a lot of freedom to think better and also put in your best efforts to kind of get the best result. Okay, does this make sense, Hare Krishna?
Yes, Mataji.
So, that's how you need to lead. It's so simple. It's very nice. See, I've been reading these texts for the last 3 years, and I really see it very, very meaningful. And also it actually gives you the liberation. It completely liberates you, and it gives you that sense of meaning to everything. And also you laugh at some of the things that you may have done in the past. We have done so many things that actually has probably created a lot of issues or problems or some things that didn't give us much peace. But this gives you a lot of peace. And when there is peace, you have a lot of time to think well and also put your best foot forward. Okay. In everything that we do, even a simple activity as cooking dal chawal, that also makes the whole process, very enjoyable. Okay. 12.12. So now he says, okay, Arjuna, if you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. He is giving us the comparison. What is he saying? Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj, jnanat dhyanam vishishyate, dhyanat karma phalatyagas, tyagat shantir anantaram. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in cultivation of knowledge. If you cannot do the abhyasa, then take yourself to cultivation of knowledge. So he says, cultivating knowledge is better than basic practice, which you're doing it with a lot of stress and strain. I have to get up early in the morning, and very, very tough. The bed is so nice. I want to sleep. It's so nice. I want to sleep for some more time. I don't want to wake up. So he says, if you don't want to do that, at least study, at least engage, at least try and see, what is it that that one must make use of in this lifetime. It will help you to at least, get on to doing some of the things in a good manner. So now he says, better than knowledge, however, is meditation. Meditation is the dhyana yoga that we read. But meditation can also be seen in another way. Self-inquiry. Keep doing a self-inquiry. Okay, this is how I did this is how I performed today. What is it I could have done better? What is it that I didn't do well? Why is it I didn't do something that well as I should have? So what should I do to make amends? That is also another way of looking at meditation. But he says, Better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. The moment you don't have that ownership, then obviously it liberates you. It's highly liberating. So here the Lord says, better than abhyasa is knowledge, better than knowledge is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation. Tyaga. Tyaga does not mean sannyasa. Tyaga means giving up. Practicing nishkama karma is tyaga. Okay. So with that, we end that verse on, I think there's something came up. Did it come up? This is Jnana. Okay. Now, 12.13 and 14. Now, he's going to talk about from 12.13 onwards up to 12.20. The Lord is going to talk about the various qualities that will help us to kind of, or that will draw us closer to Krishna. Or Krishna would get enamored by these qualities. So can someone read this these two verses on this slide? Hare Krishna.
One who is not envious, but who is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself as a proprietor, who is free from false ego and equal both in happiness and distress, who is always satisfied and engaged in devotional service with determination, and whose mind and intelligence are in agreement with me. He is very dear to me. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So one who's not envious. So envy, again and again he brings envy, and we know that we're all in a way in our material condition, the body, we get this ingredient often crops up. And trust me, this also crops up in very of those, highly elevated, gurus and yogis as well. Envy is something that we need to really guard ourselves very, very, very strongly. Because envy is the only thing which can be a very strong enemy that will come as a strong wall between ourselves and our goal. And envy, the moment you're envious, it immediately reflects in every activity you do, the way you speak and the way you kind of do your work. And also it also affects relationships as well. A relationship which looked beautiful until yesterday suddenly looks a little stressful and strainful. So he says, one who's not envious, but who's a kind friend to all living entities. And this is one shloka which we read in 5.18. I think it was Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane Gavi Hastini, Shunicha Vishwapakecha, Samadarshina Pandita. So one who sees the Paramatma in every living entity, he is a true sage, or he is the one who is a true Brahmana. That is a Brahmana, because he sees the Paramatma in everyone. Who does not think of himself to be a proprietor. Again, the Nishkama Karma, the moment you think yourself as to be the doer, ego comes in. Element of I comes in. I is a very, 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 is the biggest enemy of mankind. And equal both in happiness and distress. Because happiness and distress, we all know, Matras Prashasta Kaunteya, 2.14, he said that. Both of these are the two sides of the coin, and they're going to come, back to back. So in fact, I remember Ruskin Bond said, happiness is like a butterfly. So when it comes and sits on you, just behold it, because you don't know when it will fly away. So it's like a butterfly, that is just momentary. The more it comes in, and the next moment there's something else that's going to seek your attention, which may not be as happy as this moment was. So it's like a butterfly. Just enjoy it when it's there. But when it goes, don't be worried, because again it will come back. It will come back in some form or the other. So it's okay. And then who's always satisfied? You will always be satisfied once you kind of give up that ego, once you're kind of not getting too excited, once you're not, it's like a seesaw. Ensure the seesaw has to do its job. Seesaw will keep going. So life is also like a seesaw. One day it will be high, one day it will be low. The moment you take it in your stride, automatically you'll be satisfied. And your engagement in devotional service will remain undeterred. It is a byproduct. Please understand. All these things, ultimately, the byproduct of devotional service are many branched. It gives you happiness. It gives you a sense of liberation. It gives you freedom from all kinds of, ropes that are constantly looking to tying you up. Nobody can tie you up when you are a Nishkama Karma Yogi, when you are a Bhakti Yogi. Okay. 12.15, he says, he for whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anxiety, who is steady in happiness and distress, is very dear to me. So what he's saying is we need to have that mental calm and balance. That is the thing which will, he says, is very dear to me because you're going to be steadfast in your bhakti or devotion, A. And you're also going to work for the welfare of all living entities. You're going to be someone who's going to be an angel for everybody in the society. Angels don't exist only in the higher planets. Angels can also be on this living platform that we are in. Yeah. So angel is what one needs to become. All of us have to kind of imbibe those qualities, which is going to not only draw us closer to the God conscious, but it also helps us to kind of spread that wave of happiness to one and all. Okay. Then here he says, he's already said this, right? Yeah, you already saw that. Okay, 12.16, a devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, come what may, they do not sway away from their trust and faith and their determination in the things that they do, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and who does not strive for some result, is very dear to me. So you're not dependent on the ordinary course of activities. You do it just as the way, waking up and going to sleep is part of the system. You're doing your activities just in the same way, not with extraordinary excitement or nor with extreme distress. Who's pure? When you say pure, it means one who looks upon everything as the God principle. Expert, without cares. Without cares means one who's not actually, tying themselves up to anything material, but are looking upon things just from a utility perspective for doing the duties for the sake of Krishna, free from all pains. Pains are always going to be there in life. Let me give you an example here. There was a very nice Prabhuji who I came across 2 years ago in the midst of COVID. He's associated, in one of these ISKCON centers here in Bangalore. I stay in Bangalore, so this Prabhuji is associated with one of these ISKCON centers. I had got in touch with him because he wanted me to support him in some sessions that he was doing. So when I was in a conversation with him, very rarely it happens that you don't get into conversations like that, but rarely, it just happened, something he said which made me ask him. He was a grihastha, he had 2 children. So that just made me ask him, is your family also very supportive of all these things that you do? Then immediately he said that his wife had passed away a month ago after delivering his second child. You won't believe it. I was not so advanced in Krishna consciousness at that time, just 2 years ago, as I said. I was absolutely stumped. I said, this gentleman is talking to me about doing so many devotional activities, and he has lost his better half, and he has a 1-month-old baby to take care. And then, after some time, I asked him, how old is the eldest one? And the eldest one was barely 3 years old. And he has an elderly mother who was around, I think, 65 or something. I mean, not very elderly, but 65. And he was totally engaged in, going about activities as if everything was. Then I suddenly stopped. I said, look, I am a little numb right now. I'm not able to think beyond, anything that we have discussed so far. I said, how are you managing? I said, how are you being how are you taking a very, you're just going about activities as if everything is not. I said, how are you able to do it? So that time, it was like, I was completely, soaked up in sorrow. And then he said, everything is happening under the instruction of Lord Krishna. Probably he has something in all of this that is happening. It is all his plan. So Mataji, I am actually taking it in my stride. I'm going to just do whatever I need to do as a father, I will take care of my children, and Krishna will take care of the rest. So that's what it means, free from all pains. He had all the pains, definitely. We are mortal souls. Everything will affect us. But what here it means is we have to continue doing things that we have to do, irrespective of what falls upon us. We have to do the best that we can do. That is that which is in our circle of control, and that which we can control by our influence. Okay, so he says such people are very dear to me. I just wanted to share this as an example. There are very many more examples, but then this was a real life example that I personally, when I read this verse today before coming to this class, it just reminded me of that Prabhuji when I read this sentence, free from all pains. Okay, the next verse says, one who neither grasps pleasure or grief, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things is very dear to me. Okay, so just be equal in all kinds of situations, because we see we have all come to this world because we have to experience everything. So there are all kinds of experiences are going to be part and parcel of our lives. Now you may ask someone who is lost, for example, he had lost his wife. Now, is it something that I'm going to recite the verses of the Gita to him? No, that's not what it means. Of course, you have to give them all the compassion, all the kindness that they deserve, in those moments of grief that each one is going through. But at some point in time, we have to give them that helping hand, so that they can understand the way life moves around and, helps us, or rather, we have to help ourselves with all that life has in store for us. There's another example also. There was a friend who called me recently, and he had lost his elderly mother. I think she was around 85, 86. He lost her to cancer. And then he approached me. He said, can you please, I need counseling. Can you please, I also do counseling. So he said, can you please help me, deal with this trauma that I'm going through right now? So I asked him, when did your mother pass away? I hadn't known, because he had not informed any of us. So he said she had passed away some 3 months ago, but he said, I'm not able to get over it. So then I knew 3 months had passed. I said, you're not a candidate for a psychological counseling at all. You don't need it. You're a very smart man. He's a smart banker, and he's doing very well for himself. Very high salary person, high salary bracket and all that. I said, you're doing very well for yourself. You're a very confident, you're a self-made man. You're confident. I said, what you need is now, I said, start reading the Bhagavad Gita. And I encouraged him to join one of our classes. And I think he's doing his classes in one of the sessions. He's attending one of the sessions right now as we speak. So many times, we need to give that support by way of this knowledge in the scriptures to people at the right time. Yeah. So obviously we couldn't have said this when they are going through, when they are in the moment. So here in this case, since 3 months had already passed, and here was a person, okay, you just look at the situation, you got to look at the person. This person is a very, he's a high performing, he's a senior executive in a very large organization. So it's okay, because so therefore we need to really see when is it that we can infuse the confidence that one can get through the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, when you think is the right moment, give it to them, help them, give them that, extend that helping hand to them, so that they can use that as a prop to stand up. Okay. So one who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contamination, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and engaged in devotional service, is very dear to me. Now, here, who doesn't care for any residence means nothing. We may live in the best of homes, and the best of things, are some of the gadgets and vehicles we may own. But that is not the permanent one, because at some day or the other, we have to leave all of this and, look into the next life that would be in store for us, right? So one who just does things just as much as they have to do, because of their prescribed duties, one must perform. But who doesn't care for any residence means who's not really, enamored by the physical, physical wealth and the opulence that comes along with, certain forms of lives that we have. For some people, a lot of things, these things, opulence and wealth, comes their way. For some of us, we may have to struggle. For some, it may be far-fetched. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, it is impermanent for all of us. Nothing is permanent. Wealth is not permanent, and no wealth is also not permanent, right? Everything is impermanent. Each one of us, it doesn't mean that we therefore do not do our duties. We have to do our duties to the best of our capability and ability. But remember that none of it is permanent. So that's what the Lord is saying. One who is balanced, one who is not agitated by pain and pleasure, or one who doesn't go on a high and a low, one who is completely always well-grounded, centered. Such a person is very dear to me, is what the Lord says. Okay. 12.20, who follows this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engages himself with faith, making me the supreme goal, is very, very dear to me. Okay. So with that, we end this chapter. So the devotional path of devotional service is an imperishable path. There is nothing like there's no expiry date that comes to that. Everything that we do in material life has an expiry date, whereas devotional service has no expiry date. And the more you do it, the more you engage in it, the more you engage in bhakti, the more joyful it becomes. The more, it kind of gives you a lot more freedom. And what does freedom mean? Freedom helps you to exercise your choices in a better way. You exercise choices well. That is what is freedom. Freedom does not mean, I'm away from everybody and therefore I'm sitting on atop the Himalayas. No. Freedom means freedom to think well, freedom to kind of, exercise the right choices, because we as a human beings are the only ones who have the ability to kind of use our intellect, and therefore the freedom to kind of move away or break all those kind of shackles that are material and engage in the higher taste. That is the freedom that devotional service gives you. It gives you the freedom to choose the higher. It gives you the freedom to choose something that is better than the ordinary. Going for the extraordinary. Moving away from the mundane kind of things. Seeking the highest form of pleasure and happiness, that which will always remain with you. Anything else, today I buy a jewelry, I wear it once, the next minute it's old because it's already out from the market and I've already worn it, it's old. If I go to sell it back in the shop is not going to, value it in the same way. It is old. Today I buy a dress. The moment I wear it and I've used it and washed it, it is an old dress. It is gone. I can't exchange it. I can exchange it only as long as it's new with the label. The moment I remove the label, the shopkeeper is not going to take it. So if all of that has an expiry date. Bhakti has no expiry date. And bhakti always helps you to kind of keep growing it. There's nothing like, it kind of devalues itself. Even our money can get devalued. Once demonetization happened, the kind of racket that went around, right? So therefore, everything gets devalued. Bhakti always grows in value, okay, grows in essence. So Hare Krishna, with that, this chapter gets over, and it also means that this section of Bhakti also is something we complete with this chapter. From tomorrow, we will look at the section of Jnana, and the 13th chapter is titled Kshetra and Kshetrajna Yoga, which means it's nature, the enjoyer, and the consciousness. Okay, so that is the chapter we will look at tomorrow in chapter 13. Any questions, please? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I had a question.
Yeah.
As you said, whatever work we do and whatever we should do, we shouldn't have any expectations or something. But we find sometimes whatever maybe in the work, relationship, whatever we see, some other time, some kind of expectation, some kind of desire they crept in. So is there is that thing wrong? Like if some of little expectations are coming or some desires are coming, is it wrong if those things are coming in?
Yeah. So without getting into the specificity of asking you what that would be, let me give you an example of our parents. Our parents do everything for us. Most parents do things for their children because they want to see the welfare of their children. They send them to the best of schools. They send them to colleges. Some parents also seek loans. Now, very many times I've seen most parents, I've heard them say things like, बस मुझे जो करना है मैं कर रहा हूं बच्चे के. अभी आगे बच्चा क्या करेगा, whether he will look after me or not is not something that I'm really bothered about. यदि करेगा तो करेगा, यदि नहीं करेगा तो भी ठीक है. Because as a parent, he says, I will not wish bad for my child. You're getting the point? So in any kind of a relationship, if the relationship is pure, then that relationship will have no kind of expectations for it. It's a pure relationship. I have a friendship with somebody, it's pure. Because I have that friendship because I enjoy the company of that friendship. I feel nice in that relationship. And if tomorrow that relationship, or for that matter, that person doesn't reciprocate in the same way as I feel for that person, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to feel bad. That I'm not going to have any kind of an ill feeling, or I'm not going to curse that person. See, a mother, a parent, a father, a mother will never curse their children. They will say, oh, ठीक है, वो मुझे नहीं देखता है तो ठीक है, जहां रहे अच्छा रहे बस. Right? So similarly, in all other forms of relationships, as far if the relationship is pure, then you're really not bothered about you will not set unnecessary expectations there. But if the relationship is for something, there's a desire attached to the relationship. I am in this relationship because I want this. Then immediately it is kamya karma. It is not nishkama. It's karma. So the moment there is a desire, I want something. I am a friend of somebody because I know this friend of mine is very rich, and I know being in the company of this friend is going to give me a lot of maybe popularity, or maybe others will, or maybe I'll get to party, in places, or I'll get, further references, which will help me to build my relationships further, or it help me to further in my business and things like that. So there is a desire. So when that kind of a desire exists and that friendship breaks away for some reason, envy comes in, anger comes in, jealousy, anger, everything comes
in. Thank you, Mataji. Right.
I don't know if I answered you, but this is what is the best that I can think of. Because we've all been through it. It's not that, this is anything new. Today I'm able to give you this answer out of my personal experiences. Yeah. Today I feel a lot more nice, because, I have no expectations of any of my friendships. And I'm very happy in all the kind of relationships that I have with everyone. It is very, what do you call it? It is without any kind of a, demand. Yeah. So that makes it easy. If you can, you do it. If you can't, you say, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm in the right frame now to help you out. And people are fine with that. And because the next day again, you're answering their calls. You have the same cheer on your face. You have the same kind of, tone in which you're talking to them. And you have the same, that selfless love for them. Okay. So Hare Krishna, see you tomorrow.
Hare Krishna.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna.